So welcome to the last of the series of talks, overall title being Breaking Through into Buddhahood. And we'll be giving the last talk in that series today. So over the past weeks, and I have to say I have not been here, but I'll take it as read that what I think happened. And so when Bhante gave this talk in 1969, he identified four particular things which needed to be broken through profoundly, ultimately, for the attainment of enlightenment or Buddhahood. And over the last few weeks, we've had a number of talks looking at each of these things in turn. Initially, we looked at negative emotion, breaking through negative emotion. And the reason for that is that we need to break through negative emotions so that we can fully experience the positive emotions of love, compassion, equanimity, and joy, for example. So we can experience those emotions to their fullest degree. Then there was a talk, I think from Sadaraja, on psychological conditioning. So we need to break through the limitations inherent in psychological conditioning so that we can experience ultimately complete spontaneity, freedom, and limitless creativity. And last week, I think it was Ketu Raja who spoke about breaking through rational thinking. And in Sangharakshita's talk, he said that once you break through rational thinking and you experience what he termed transcendental non-rationality. Now this week we're going to look at the last thing which Bhante Sangharakshita identified as what needed to be broken through, and that is a sense of time. And this refers to breaking through mechanical or clock time. So that's my brief for today. It's a bit esoteric, but we'll see how we get on. We'll start a bit more shallow, and we'll head towards the deep as we go through the talk. So what this really means is that we need to let go of relating to time in a minute by minutes and hours. For example, we need to break through a life which is bound up with that in a very tight way. And ultimately, when we let go of that, we experience what you could call the timeless dimension, or an everlasting, eternal sense of now. And with that becomes a loss of the limitations inherent in the habitual conceiving of a past, present, and future. So that's what I'll be talking about today. But the first thing I wanted to, just to get the ball rolling, and we'll have a bit of a chat in small groups in a minute. And this is going to be talking about how our sense of time is fabricated or constructed. And there's a lot to do with our mental state. So we could say that our sense of time is dependent upon our mental state. And I'll just take a few examples, and then you can have a bit of a chat with your neighbours about how you experience these things, how our experience of time changes depending on what's going on externally and what's going on internally. So let's take some examples which are familiar to me. Say you're standing in a long queue at Tesco's, and you're standing in this one queue and you're thinking, bet that one's going faster. Shall I stay here or should I go to that one over there? And then you get to craving, hope I've got the right queue. I really want to get to the front of the queue so I can pay for my things. And time goes pretty slowly then, doesn't it? Because you're craving that you can get to the end of the queue, and then because we're craving, time seems to go pretty slow. However, if we're able to let go of that craving, then time doesn't drag at all. We're just reasonably happy with the whole thing. So that's one example. Let's say we're watching a really engaging movie, and we're just like really engrossed in it. And before you know it, the first hour and a half is just gone. We're really engrossed in it, and time goes really quick. So time can pass really quick if we're really engaged with something. Then going to times when we're on retreat. Don't know what your experience is like, maybe you can talk about it in a minute. If we're on retreat, time seems to take on a more spacious, expansive kind of character. So that we're in a setting where time takes on this different kind of nature. Maybe we could say that we're in touch, at least to some degree, with the timeless dimension, leading to a different experience of time. At least to some degree that we're in touch with this timeless dimension. Then I was also thinking about what happens to our experience of time when we're listening to music. Haven't got any answers to that one, but you may have something to say about that. So for the first 5 minutes, let's go into groups of 3 and just have a little bit of a chat about that theme of how it does seem that our experience of time changes dependent on our mental state and what's going on. Maybe just to share a few experiences of how time has experienced. We've experienced time differently in different situations. So we've got 5 minutes for that. I'll ring a bell when we've finished.
I was just actually thinking on retreat, I often find that at the beginning it slows down and then it really speeds up. So why is that then? After the first 3 or 4 days, it then starts getting really but I always have this experience. The first few days are hard. I think it's because it takes time to get into the routine and understand how things work. So yeah, I think it's by the space. But I also feel like last year. But when I was on holiday, it went like that. I wanted it to last longer. I don't like it. And they actually have a very 4 or 5 places in the country. Yeah, that's true, yeah. It goes forever, yeah. Summer holiday. It's like, we used to go to a house. We were only there for 4 weeks in the summer, but I lived there. And I think it might have been school here. And I guess it was there was I was just like a child, and as I said to my guy, he was if I can say that, yes, already. It's a very good sense of then you have to make it private, like maybe I don't know, naturally, pipelines, whatever. It's very hard to an hour. Techniques are nice there.
Experience of it is fascinating. I mean, I know what they say is because if you do it from A to B and it's years fly by.
Well, except that when you were 10, you say from 10 to 9.
So there's that. There are events we were talking about before.
I think it is a great tool. had a lot of frustration around the time. I mean, now it's changing because, you know, like, it's my purpose, right? Like,
Oh, I do that.
so, like, you think, like,
I know what you mean.
years so long, right? Okay, we define enlightenment as reason that I think wakes up to power, right? So just like
Yeah, just define. I don't know how it works.
I see the
it's just a rare resource and valuable.
Summer term is rubbish one.
And you might have a about kids but adults are always thinking about what they're going to be doing next. So when you're in a queue, it's annoying, time slows down, because what you're really interested in is getting out of the queue so you can get on with the next thing. And I don't know if it's possible to just be aware in a queue.
Again, I think that's the only
I mean, it's interesting when you're listening to music.
And it actually felt like it did take off.
So what did we think? What came up in that little group discussion? What were the kind of things people were saying about how the experience of time changed from different kind of states of mind and different things we're doing? Go on, Lou.
Definitely goes faster as you get older.
Yeah, I think I agree with you there. Yeah. Whereas when you're young, it seems to last forever, doesn't it? Yeah.
It's a problem, it goes on forever.
Yeah. Like when you think about how long it took to get to 18. You think, oh God, that take forever. Then think, how long did it take to get from 36, from 18 to 36? About half as long, roughly. You know. Yeah. Anybody else? What else did people come up with?
Well, travelling back from somewhere seems to take less time.
That's true. That is indeed true. Yes. Yeah. Why on earth is that? Who knows? Yeah. Sangharakshita said an interesting thing. He reckoned that the intensity of our experience has quite a strong impact on how we perceive time.
Yeah, we had. We had one where, when I felt more present, time was more timeless.
Yeah, absolutely,
when I was
absolutely.
less present, time was more pressing.
Yes, very much so. Yes. That's, of course, where we want to head. We want to head towards this more timeless experience. Yeah. Anybody else?
How pleasant something is. There seems to be a rule that the less pleasant something is, the longer it is.
So, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. 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 Yeah.
They say in Lancashire that a watched kettle never
boils. That's right. Yes. Absolutely. When cravings there, time just drags and stretches out in front of you. Yeah. Okay, so it looks like you could all pretty well engage with the idea that our perception of time, how it passes, is quite a malleable thing. It's absolutely not fixed. The clock, whatever it means that the clock ticks at the same rate, how does that relate? I mean, it's quite difficult to know exactly how they relate, but they can't be unrelated. But they don't seem to relate exactly. The clock ticks regularly, but depending on many factors, our experience of time is different. So what I would like to sort of advertise here is that if we can engage with the idea that our sense of time is dependent upon our state of mind and things what's going on, maybe we can be open to the idea that time from an enlightened being is not how we normally experience it. That in fact there's potentially a step change in how time might be experienced for a highly spiritually evolved person. So that's the first point I'd like to get across. And then I'm sure you'll be able to answer this quite well. But why would we wish to go beyond an attachment to clock or mechanical time? Because our regular kind of day is quite ordered around time, isn't it? So if you're at work, you probably have to get up at a certain time. If you're a meditator, you probably have to meditate at a particular time so you can get up for work, get to work on time. You probably have to get to work at pretty much the same time, unless you're in quite a relaxed kind of setting. You might have lunch at a similar time. You got pre-arranged meetings which have to happen at a particular time. Then you have to go to bed at a particular time so you can get up at a particular time. So it does seem as if our life is a lot to do with time. So how we might think, well, how can we, or do we even need to go beyond that? Don't we need to be tied to the clock? And we might think, well, surely also having a routine is actually quite helpful. Most people, including me, quite like to have a routine. You sort of know what's going on. It gives you a sort of a framework for life, which seems to be very helpful. But just thinking about this, if our life really revolves around the clock and we're just not in the present moment at all, we're potentially always stressing about, have I got enough time to do this so I can do the next thing? And then when things get a little bit out of our control, we think, oh, have I got enough time? Oh, I don't think I have. Then we get stressed. I really experienced this strongly when I was doing care work, where what we did was very, very carefully timetabled, and often found I didn't really have, my perception was I didn't really have time to do what I needed to do, and I was quite regularly stressed doing that job. But then just thinking about how we might sort of reset ourselves there. So let's say you're driving home, and you want to get home as quickly as possible so that I can relax, because you've got to get there as quickly as possible so that you can relax. And then you get stuff in a traffic jam, or there's some damn train that's waiting for a train to go across the tracks and it's taking forever. Then one decides to go the other way as well. So things just drag out, and you're just not getting home, and you might get irate and stressed. I'm just not getting home because I want to relax. Well, how about resetting and say, okay, well, why don't you relax while you're in the traffic jam? And then take your relaxing now, take your relaxing earlier than you originally thought. Result, Anyway, there's just one way we might sort of rejig things in our mind, and surely that would be a better attitude. But I was reflecting on my own experience of being tied to the clock, which, as a retired person for the last 7 years, I've been able to relax. But certainly for many years, particularly when I was at work, I was definitely quite tied to the clock. And reflection suggests to me that there's several detrimental effects which I laboured with for a long time. And just reflecting on it now, say these are reflections, these aren't scientific observations which can be justified in a court of law, but maybe they will resonate with you. And my sense was that my consciousness was cramped and restricted. That was how I was sort of looking back on it. That seems to be what was happening. And I remember in the pub once, and I was like about 30, and one of the guys I was with, Kenny, he said, "Well, what if you do these lateral thinking exercises where you have to really think outside the box?" Just couldn't do it at all. Felt really well beyond my comfort zone, and it does suggest to me that there was this consciousness which was rather cramped and restricted, and something which has been a bit of something which I never quite understood, that I never really made enough time to go and see my parents, who were about 250 miles away, or ring them up as often as I might. I'm now thinking that the state of mind seems to be something to do with my relationship to the clock, that I tended to see people as things rather than as human beings. There was a kind of a lack of imagination. As I say, I can't prove this, but this is what's come up in reflection. Maybe it resonates with you. So maybe that being really tied to the clock may make us not very creative, and we might crave or be averse to the next scheduled thing, and we might get a sense that time is not really our own, and we might even resent that. So there could well be quite a number of detrimental effects of being really tied into a sense of clock time, and really ordering our life very tightly around the clock time, rather than our own natural rhythms, which I'll talk about in a minute. So in the talk which this series is based on, Sangharakshita makes a distinction between two different experiences of time. He's talked about clock or mechanical time, where time is divided up into the past, present and future, and into minutes, days, hours, years, etc. So that's time in the clock or mechanical sense, which is what we want to ultimately go beyond, at least in terms of our attachment to it. Then in contrast to that, Sangharakshita talked about organic time. And he talked about it in terms of our own, a total experience of pure continuous duration. Our experience of the present moment is direct and immediate. There is no thought of past, present or future. And using other kind of terminologies, we might call this an experience of timelessness. Although there's a sense of a kind of a now, maybe even an eternal, everlasting now, we don't actually experience time in the way that we normally do. In the way we've let go of time. Time is no longer fabricated. And Eckhart Tolle has some useful things to say about this in his book, The Power of Now, which did the rounds 25 years ago. So thinking about this and how my experience of organic time has unfolded, it seems to me that there are a number of different levels at which we've gone beyond to a first level, mechanical time, and we're entering a new kind of experience of time, which, and I'm using Bante's term, organic time. It seems to me that there are a number of different levels of depth in which we can experience that new sense of time. One level might be, and I've been experimenting with this over the last few weeks, because I didn't think I hadn't had enough time to prepare for this talk, so I really did get the push the boat out and try and do some serious practice to get some info based on my own experience. So one thing we might do is get in touch with natural cycles, whether those are internal or external. So an internal cycle might be the cycle of breathing, and an external cycle would be the time of day or season, or how a tree is doing, like whether it's shedding its leaves or whether it's coming into its full maturity with lovely green leaves. So there are internal and external cycles. And I found that when you engage with these cycles and you really observe them, it's purely just an act of observation with a kind of perspective of looking for cycles. This really breeds mindfulness. So we're heading towards a sense of being deeply engaged in the present. Yes, so it seems to me that that's one doorway, you could say, into organic time, is looking for and engaging with natural cycles, internal and external. And another thing which seemed to be pointing in this direction of organic time is when I was reflecting on very early on in my Dharma life. I was going to Manchester Buddhist Centre at the time. And it occurred to me, well, why don't I have a mindful weekend? I'll just have a couple of days, Saturday, Sunday, where I was going to be mindful. So I thought, well, what am I going to do to help myself in this? Now, being a musician, I did everything to music. I washed up to music. I drove to music. I played my violin, my piano to music, you know. So go figure. But anyway, that's what I did, and so I thought, well, I'm not going to do that. I'll just turn the music off. So I washed up, I drove, etc., with quiet in the background, and after a day or so, had this lovely experience of seeing everything as sacred. This was not what I was expecting, but it was really excellent. It was a lovely experience of just experiencing, just for a few minutes, everything as being sacred. And it took quite a few years for that experience to be repeated. So what came to me, having sort of engaged with that kind of line of inquiry recently, was that it seems to me that the present moment experience is the sacred element. And what I mean by sacred here is the deeply meaningful and significant aspect of our experience is the present moment experience of whatever it is that we're experiencing, absolutely whatever it is. So that seems to be one other dimension of organic time. It seems to relate to a sense of the sacred when we're really engaged with our present moment experience. And then going to the sort of the profoundest experience of organic time, we have, as I've sort of alluded to before, is where we're just being, and time has been let go of. Time is not fabricated, but there's this sense of a now. It's difficult to use words, but there's not past, present, or future. There's not even a present. And there's certainly not a past or a future, but we're just in a sense of now. So that's, in a way, you could say the ultimate sense of organic time, the timelessness, the transcendental, you could say. So I was summarising these things for my own benefit. Is that it seems to me that clock time is the world of achievement, where we have to do things by a certain time, then do the next thing by a certain time, so that we get things done through the course of the day. So it seems to me that clock time is the world of achievement and doing. And organic time, for me, it seems to extend from the world of mindful observation, maybe of the natural cycles of ourself and the world, maybe through an experience of everything being sacred, and then going all the way through up to the world of just being, not fabricating anything, not fabricating time, and we have this sort of sense of what Bhante called a total experience of pure continuous duration, a kind of an eternal nowness. So that's maybe how we might understand organic time in its different dimensions. Now, as I was preparing for this talk, I got out from my bookshelves a book I'd not read before, and it was called Buddha Standard Time, written by the American Lama in the Tibetan tradition, Lama Surya Das. And when he talks about Buddha Standard Time, he's talking to this timeless dimension, or the eternal now. And in his book, I found it very interesting that he talked about what you might call harmonizing with the archetypes of Father Time and Mother Earth. So this seemed like an interesting way of talking about this theme of time. So just talking a bit about those two archetypes. So Surya Das was talking about Father Time as relating to the sacred masculine or yang energy. And he described this rather nicely as the tirelessly inventive and dynamic quest for achievement, improvement, and novelty. So this is Father Time, the sacred masculine. Then we have Mother Earth, which relates to the sacred feminine or yin energy. And we might talk about that in terms of nurturing energy, wisdom and insight born of experience, intuition, and a state of being rather than doing. And if we talk in relation to time, Father Time seems to represent like the linear scale of time. And Surya Das talks about the sands of time running out in an endless stream. And Mother Earth represents the repeated natural cycles, like the seasons, the rhythms of the day and night, and the passage from birth to death. So those all relating to Mother Earth. And then if we talk about Father Time, that seems to relate to more logical left brain kind of thinking and doing. And the sense of doing stuff, and Mother Earth to the right brain, to the more intuitive, holistic kind of perspectives, and also to a state of being rather than doing. So ultimately we need to sort of harmonize these two aspects because life involves both. So we could say that well, this is how Lama Surya Das talks. And he talked about Father Time and Mother Earth being harmonized or synchronized at the very core of our being, and how this might be best achieved in meditation. So to engage with, look at that in terms of meditative practice, we've got kind of left brain meditation, something like mindfulness practice. And then we've got more right brain, relational, intuitive aspects of the right brain. So Metta Bhavana, for example, would be more of a right brain, more of a Mother Earth kind of meditation. And similarly, just sitting would be more of a Mother Earth kind of meditation, where we've let go of trying to achieve anything, and we just sit. So loosely we might say that through meditation practice, and particularly a broad diet, or at least involving ourselves in different meditation practices, we engage different aspects of the brain, and we're engaging with Father Time and Mother Earth so that we eventually harmonize those two. Can't say I've got the last word to say about this. This is quite new theme for me, but it's quite an interesting idea, thinking about Father Time and Mother Earth in the context of breaking through time, breaking through a sense of time. Hope I haven't lost you. If I have, tough. You can talk about it in your groups later on. So connecting to the timeless. Yeah, but I was thinking about what really gets me as a musician. Well, I've already given you the answer. What is it what really gets me in touch with the present moment? And that is music. It seems to take my attention naturally and very readily into the present moment when listening to music. And quite regularly, if the music is good, there's an experience of quite a profound peacefulness and also beauty, as long as the music's good. And this struck me as quite interesting. And reflecting on this, I thought, well, I'll combine that with the sense of the sacred. And it struck me that sacredness, which you could also call deep meaning and significance, peacefulness and beauty, are descriptions or qualities of the timeless, of the transcendental, from the perspective of the mundane. Because the dualities of non-sacred or sacred will be transcended in the transcendental. But from the perspective of the mundane, these qualities of sacredness, peacefulness and beauty can be said to be qualities of the timeless dimension. So it struck me that these are really, really useful qualities to engage with. And what I've noticed when I was exploring things recently and preparing for this talk, that if we can get in touch with a sense of sacredness or a sense of peacefulness or a sense of beauty, it's so much easier just to be. We're happy to rest in our experience when we're in contact with these profound qualities, these qualities of the timeless. So it struck me there's a really a useful way forward there, particularly if well, for example, I'm very much into just sitting practice, and anything which promotes that I'm absolutely up for. So it struck me that these qualities of sacredness, peacefulness and beauties are good doorways into a just sitting practice where we're just being. We're just not trying to achieve anything, because the mind is just content as it is. So what might we do to encourage a shift in our relationship to time? Well, the first thing, just saying a little bit more of what I've said already, is that how do we encourage this breakthrough? One way of doing that is tuning into our own rhythms, and in a way putting aside clock time for a while. So we could go without a watch, and Sangharakshita did this for years. There's this nice story that he'd been in India for 20 years, and he'd done without a watch. And then he came back to the London Buddhist Society, and I think for the first talk he was 2 minutes late turning up for the talk, and a week later he was presented with a watch by the management of the London Buddhist Society, so he could give all his talks on time. That struck me slightly amusing, anyway. And today I'm modelling going without a watch. I don't own a watch anymore, so yeah. Then going on solitary retreat without a watch or a clock. How about doing that? But that's when you'd be really, in a way, forced to go along with your natural rhythms, when you're hungry, when you get up, when you go to bed, just letting your own natural rhythms inform how the day goes. So that could be something very good to do. I've only ever been on one solitary retreat, so I'm very hypocritical to suggest that as something you might like to do, but it sounds like a darn good idea. Whether I've convinced myself to go on a solitary retreat, I don't know, but something you might like to consider. And going on retreat, as I said earlier, my experience is that time really has this lovely, spacious, expansive kind of quality on retreat. So that's another way of sort of encouraging our, not to experience time not as we normally do. Then it may be possible to abide by our own rhythms a little bit more in everyday life than we normally do. For example, I don't know about you, but certainly when I was younger, I used to certainly hijack my natural sleep cycle by going to bed late. And I think this is due to FOMO, fear of missing out. And that's probably why a lot of people go to bed late. The day's not been amazing up to the end of the day, so they don't want to miss out on something good possibly happening. So you might hijack your natural sleep cycle. So that's something you might like to consider. So that's tuning into your own rhythms. And then there's the noticing the cycles, tuning into the rhythms of the natural world. So this could be related to the sun and moon, and I think I'm making a case for becoming a pagan here, in the sense of celebrating the cycles in the natural world. And I can assure you there are pagans in our Sangha. Absolutely nothing wrong with that, and I'm very, very supportive of that. Not that I've done anything about it, but there you go. But yes, it could be a very good idea to celebrate the natural cycles, maybe the equinoxes, for example. Yes, sort of just taking those kind of natural cycles quite seriously, and noticing the cycles of life and growth and fading away in trees and plants, for example, relating that to the natural cycles. Then you've got the cycles of the sun and moon. Isn't sunrise and sunset amazing? That's a natural cycle. Why not engage with that every now and again? And then that's quite a standard thing at the summer equinox to go and observe dawn happening. Yes, so that's one way we can start to reset our response to time is noticing and tuning into natural cycles in the natural world. So, I'm sort of going to wind up in a minute. Yes, so a month or two back, I jumped at the opportunity to give this talk, while recognising it would be quite a challenge. And the time has been a very interesting topic for me for quite some time now, quite a number of years. Yeah, I was coming back from I've been down visiting my brother and his wife, my sister-in-law, and also one of my nephews down in Dorset, and came back today. And I was on the train, sort of trying to put the finishing touches to my talk. And then, lo and behold, this rather beautiful sense of just being descended upon me. Really nice, quite a timeless kind of sense. It sort of quite spontaneously emerged, quite out of the blue. Probably not unrelated to the fact that I was sort of engaging with that kind of territory, preparing for the talk. But then I thought, well, I'm trying to write this talk, and then this sense of just being just seems to be really nice. A bit of conflict there. Part of me wanted to get on with writing the talk, but then again there was this sense of just being. So in a way, and that seemed to be rather emblematic of something to do with the spiritual life. You got something of a conflict, of a contrast between part of us who wants to do stuff, and this other part of us which wants to just be. It's kind of maybe it's one of those conflicts which, if we were able to tune into it, would actually be quite an important kind of conflict to stay with. Anyway, I was on the train and there's this sense of conflict. I thought, well, I'll just stay with this conflict. It seems to be the right thing to do. And I sort of intuited that's what I needed to do to finish writing this talk. So what emerged out of those, that sort of staying with that conflict between doing and being, trying to get on doing stuff, but also just wanting to just be there doing nothing at all. I sort of stayed with that conflict, and as a result of that, the questions which I'm going to ask you to look at in the second half emerged. I'm not going to steal my own thunder and tell you what they are now. It's nothing terribly exciting, so don't get your hopes up. But anyway, I'll be giving you something to talk about in the second half, and then we'll be doing the Metta Bhavana after that, maybe about 9:05. So we'll have a good chunk of time. Good chunk of time to look at that later. And this is quite remarkable. I was due to finish and at 8:05. And it's now only 4 minutes past 8. Isn't that absolutely incredible? So yes, so maybe engaging with time helps us. Actually, engaging with the timeness even helps us to be more on time. Well, having said that, I was late for the team meeting but I lost a few minutes there, but I gained a minute here. So maybe on balance, not doing too bad. Okay, so that's the end of the first half. Time for tea, and I'll give you your mission for the second half once you've had tea. Okay.